the way that you see stress when it comes at you has an effect on how you react to that stress. So I know it's kind of cliche to say like, it doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, or it's how you respond to the action, it's how you respond to the situation that really matters. But when you hear cliche things, they're cliche because they've stood the test of time.
When you're starting something new, sometimes it can feel intimidating. But when you walk into the studio to the energy and encouragement of someone like Coach Damien Evans, your nerves disappear immediately. He's a personal trainer, group fitness instructor, health coach, gym owner, and podcast host. The health and wellness industry is chock full of experts. What sets him apart is his ability to listen, his passion for elevating people, and his gift of making you feel valued. He's on a constant path of progress, and he is insatiable when it comes to learning for the sake of passing it on for your benefit. If you want this year to be your year of progress, then you've come to the right place. Please welcome today's guest and one of my all-time favorite coaches, Damien Evans. Hey, Coach. It's so great to see you.
Claire, oh, I miss your face. Thank you so much for having me on.
I think it's been at least a few years since I've actually been even in any of your classes, but we met originally. I think it's been 8 years. I went back, I was thinking about this morning, and 8 years ago, 2015 is when I decided I was starting a new journey for myself to get fit again. And I had decided to check out Orange 3 Fitness, which was like a 25-minute drive for me. And I also decided 5 a.m. was going to be the class I went after. Strategically in my mind, I thought the people that show up at 5 a.m. are probably committed, and I need the people around me that are committed. And so I'm pretty sure the first class I showed up to was yours, because I was having a hard time figuring out if I was going to stick to it or not. And your energy, just your positivity, as soon as I walked in the door, I could feel, I think I'm going to love this. And so I would always sign up for every single one of your classes that I could that were at 5 a.m. until you switched out of 5 a.m. And what I loved the most about you, I was thinking about like, what is it about you, Coach, that made me want to be there? You used certain words, and I'm sure it was intentional, but things like you would call us athletes. You would say like showing up for your teammates. So the verbiage that you used made us feel like we were part of something bigger. And you have this awesome way of you call out people's names. So that makes us know that you actually see us and we're not just something that you're doing. And then also you always maybe want to work harder in a way that was encouraging. And so I was looking at, okay, well, what else can I do better? And when I was thinking it, you would call it out. So those are things that always brought me back, class after class. And even when you moved to a gym that was like even further, I was like, at least once a week, I got to go to Coach Damien's classes. So thank you for starting off my journey. And 5 a.m. is like normal for me now. So thank you for that.
Claire, that is incredible. I received that. I appreciate that so much. And you caught me when I was pretty brand new to training group fitness in California. I had done some in my home state of Oregon, but I had come down here. You're right. It was like 8, maybe even 9 years ago where we met. And, when you're new to a place, you got to put in your time. So those newer coaches, they went straight to that 5 a.m. slot. I remember doing 5 a.m. Monday through Friday, and I worked Saturday and Sunday too. So the thing about 5 a.m.ers, it's incredible. Yeah, you may not have the best energy that you'll have all day, but when you prioritize your health, your fitness, your movement first thing in the morning, that says a lot about you. And that carries over into everything that you do in life. And those 5 a.m.ers, those are the most consistent. Those are the ones that will support each other the most. That is like what you call a true fit family right there. It's you have each other's back. And we went through some stuff. It's like when you're up that early and you're making those sacrifices for your day, you guys are connected on a certain level. And what I appreciated about you was, even at that time when most people are still brushing the crust out of their eyes and they're not really, 100% there verbally, you came in with a smile on your face, your energy. Anyone listening to this, if you don't know Claire, her energy it's so contagious, and she'll come in with the positive energy to make everyone feel better. She will, in the workout, lift heavier than any other person in the room. You do not have to tell Claire to lift heavy. And that is something that I think is really, really important about a person, is the ability to push themselves. And then at the end, you would always have these cards, these inspirational cards that you would give to every person in the building. And it's just like, there was no other person like you. So I just am so grateful to have someone like you in my life. So thank you.
Thank you. I did remember that you were just started, like you had just moved here from Oregon, I think, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful that was you at the very beginning, because it has now definitely become a habit for me, that just feeling like it is how I see myself, and you were a big part of that. So how did your journey start in the fitness world? Paint the picture of what your life looked like before.
Yeah, so I got into fitness pretty much just like every other athlete. I was really into sports. I had done sports all my childhood, and I just wanted to get better at doing any sport that I was in. And it started off
Mm.
very selfish. I wanted to look better. I wanted my body to be strong, and I wanted to have those big muscles. And I remember when I was younger, I I tell everybody this. I only lifted my chest, my abs, and my calves. Like that is the truest bro split that you could ever think of. Like the most non-functional but aesthetically pleasing muscle groups, and that was like my focus. So
Yeah.
I got into that, and then I realized that I started to learn things about the body, and the more that I learned about the body, the more I was like, I don't know anything. It's that Dunning-Kruger effect, but it just like it blew my mind. I became obsessed, and the more I learned, the more I wanted to teach people, and I just started teaching family and
Mm.
friends about exercises and nutrition and just like the very basics. And I became a personal trainer while I was working my way through school. I thought that was the most, the thing that looked the best for me when it came to my future. And I just, every time a client would come to me and they would tell me how thankful and grateful they were, I at the same time thought I was getting it back. I was like, I feel like I'm getting all this
Mm.
good things, energy, experiences back from these people that I'm training, but they are telling me that I'm changing their life. So like this symbiotic relationship of growth and teaching people that they could be stronger than they give themselves credit for, it was just intoxicating. So I just kept going, moved down here, and first thing I did was get a personal training job at a local gym, 24-hour gym, and didn't love the big box atmosphere as much. It's
Mm.
I kind of came on the tail end of the 24-hour fitness. They were like a great company at the very start of their company, and they really cared about their people. And then as you get bigger, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this can understand, like as you get bigger, it starts to become a little bit more about the numbers and the policies and a
Right.
little bit more corporate. And I felt that I lost that really close feel, and it was just about hitting the numbers, and they didn't really care about the people. So I was searching for something, and I found group fitness, which in the fitness industry, if you talk to personal trainers or if you talk to coaches, there's a big debate. What's better, personal training or group fitness? And I've always been on the
Mm.
side of there's the gold standard is personal training, one-on-one attention, individualized
Yeah.
programming. You have the ability to slow down and correct anything that needs to be corrected before moving on. Now, I came into the group fitness world and I found the power of community that
Mm.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of people underestimate. The power of community and the energy in the room and having people expecting you to be in your time slot and the coach that knows your name and knows how many classes you've taken and knows your strengths and your growth opportunities. I actually have now shifted my opinion on either side, and I'm a little bit more in the middle, so I could argue either way. And that group fitness
Yeah.
uh, opportunity, the group fitness experience that I had, they showed me what a fitness community can elicit, how much power that has, and what good it can do for an entire community. So I was really grateful for that. I then kind of worked my way up the group fitness ladder. I was at one of the largest Orange Theories in San Diego with memberships, the highest membership, the highest revenue, and we were really cooking for a while there. And decided to start my own thing and try my own thing. I went into another franchise that was just barely starting up, and I was able to see all the challenges that come with trying to do something on your own
Mm.
rather than jumping into something that's already
Mm.
established. And currently,
Yeah.
I am now with my girlfriend the new owners of a small franchise here in San Diego. So what we're doing is we're doing online health coaching, personal training, group fitness instructing, running a business, and doing my podcast. And I mean, I am just enjoying
That's so
every
cool.
second of this fitness life.
That's so awesome. I mean, you really you've grown, and you've gotten to be a part of, you're right, like all the pieces of the puzzle. So, and you just started that just a few months ago, right? You said?
Yeah, we just about 3 months ago, we started to take over the Del Mar location of this new gym called Sweat Circuit. Um, the franchise is called Sweat Circuit, and it's a small local owned franchise, and they only have about 4 or 5
Yeah.
locations. So we really wanted to be able to help them out with the Del Mar location because that's right where we're at instead of traveling 35 minutes east where what we were doing before this.
So, okay. So in the spirit of knowing this podcast is about growth and learning. So I know you're still early in it, but what have you learned so far? Like what have you loved and were not expecting? And maybe what would be one thing that you were not expecting or you just didn't realize?
Um, some of the challenges are when you are working for a big company, you kind of send it up the chain if you ever have an issue or a problem. When you are the owner, when you are the one running things, you are the problem solver. So you figure out how to get stuff done. You have to do it on your budget, and you don't have unlimited funds, you don't have unlimited assets or resources, and everyone that's working with you is looking to you for what to do. That was exciting. That was challenging. That's also been a great, great growth learning opportunity for myself. It's like, hey, just figure it out. That's what I tell anybody that we work with. Hey, we're a team. We know what the end goal is. Let's just figure it out when you see a problem. One of the great things about being your own business owner is that you have the flexibility with your schedule to kind of map it out and plan it out however fits your schedule best. But you work long, hard hours, and it's, if you were to break it down hourly, what you're making, it's not a lot. So you have to do it with a passion. You have to do it because this is what you enjoy. And then the money will come later. That's kind of what I've learned so far.
Yeah. And I'm guessing you don't count the hours because you are loving what you're doing. Like there is a different ownership because it's yours.
Yeah. And I actually get in a little bit of trouble with this because I have a hard time finding balance. I even had to, when I started group fitness, I had to make two separate social media accounts because I found that I was becoming 100% work and my profession.
Yeah.
I didn't have this personal side, this private side of me anymore. So I felt like I was losing that. So I felt finding balance between the two was really, really challenging for me because I'm like all in no matter what I do. If I enjoy it, if it's my passion, I'm jumping all in. And I found that there were some challenges, especially psychologically, emotionally, mentally, when it came to finding a little bit of space between those two and not just becoming 100% the Orange Theory guy or the group fitness guy or personal trainer Damien.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That it definitely takes practice and intention to set boundaries for yourself on all of that. So you had mentioned community and the strength you found in community with group fitness. What would you say are your philosophies? Like what what is your overall values and things that you focus in on when you're teaching?
Yeah. So ever since I started learning about fitness, I have researched some of the top experts in their fields. I've listened to books, podcasts. I've really tried to see what the people that have been here before have came to the conclusion of. And if you distill all of the information that I've learned in the past 20 years about fitness, health, nutrition, you can really boil down what you're looking for when it comes to total health into 4 pillars. And everyone can kind of distill these things down into 4 pillars, all that sits on this one foundation. The 4 pillars that I've come to discover are nutrition. So anything that you're looking for when it comes to your health, your fitness, your wellness, nutrition is going to have a huge aspect to it. And nutrition, I found, is one of the more challenging pillars because all of us, every single one of us, we are individual snowflakes, right? We are so individual, and there are so many different variables on how the food that we put in our mouths gets digested, absorbed, and that food then becomes us. That, like, if you think about how intimate that process is and how far we are away from what eating used to be, now we just kind of like shove food in our mouth as fast as possible. We try to get the easiest, most convenient, most cheapest product, and we just put it in ourselves because, now we're running off of dopamine and cravings and high sugar, salt, and fat type of foods. And we've kind of gotten away from what nutrition actually is and should be. So that's the one that I struggle with the most when it comes to coaching clients, because we have to kind of get the whole mindset around what food really is and how it should be used. That's pillar number one. Pillar number two is movement and exercise. And movement and exercise can be broken down into so many different categories throughout the day. You have your amount of calories and energy that you burn just being alive. It takes energy to digest your food and to assimilate your food. You have exercise, of course, what everyone thinks of when they're using energy. They think of their exercise, but that's just a small portion of your total daily energy expenditure. And one of the more interesting aspects of movement and exercise that I think is the most powerful and can be manipulated the best is your non-exercise activity. So what you do throughout the entire day. The average American only gets 4,000 steps a day. And most of it is just moving from their house to their car to their work and then back in the reverse order. We spend maybe 10% of our day outside, which I don't think the human body was meant to not move and not be one with nature like we are nowadays. So movement and exercise, that's one huge thing that I really try to help people insert into their day and make it a part of who they are. The next pillar I talk about and we look at is stress management, because nowadays we have all this low chronic stress, emails, traffic, this project that I have looming in the distance at work, family stuff. There's just so much chronic stress that we weren't used to just even 100 years ago. And one of the biggest things with stress management that was important for me is finding the balance between a sympathetic fight or flight state and a parasympathetic rest and repair state. If you don't have balance between these two states in the body, over time, this can create dis-ease in the body. And that's where chronic diseases come from. So being able to help people with this new age of chronic stress and how to handle that. And then also understand that the way that you see stress when it comes at you has an effect on how you react to that stress. So I know it's kind of cliche to say like, it doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, or it's how you respond to the action, it's how you respond to the situation that really matters. But when you hear cliche things, they're cliche because they've stood the test of time. Really, it's so true. Right. So understanding that these things that come into your life, those challenges are what life is all about. And having the strength and the mental fortitude to be able to respond to stresses like that is really challenging. And so having someone to have support with you in those times is really important. And then the last pillar that I talk about is sleep and recovery, because all of the stress that you put on your body with exercise, all of the nutrition that you put into your body, all these things, it's when you sleep and recover where all of that starts to build and where growth happens. Me, when I was younger, I thought that every push-up I did, every squat that I did, I was just getting stronger and stronger with each rep. But what I didn't realize is that when I was doing those things to my body, I was actually breaking my body down. And in order to get stronger, you have to give yourself the time to sleep, recover, to get better. That is one thing that I really had to learn the hard way. And just if you can get the sleep pillar covered and dialed in, and there's a lot of things that you can do, finding a sleep routine, creating a sleep sanctuary, and doing some things throughout the day in order to set yourself up for good sleep. Once you get that pillar set, all the other dominoes fall in place. So some experts do argue that sleep is one of the more important things that you could do. Those 4 pillars, they sit on a foundation of community. Community is going to be so important. Your relationships, the relationships that you build and cultivate and are able to support each other. You can only do so much alone, but together you can go a lot farther. So those are kind of the things that when I first train or meet with someone or talk to someone, I say, get those all lined up and everything else will fall in place.
Yeah. Okay. So in every year on my birthday is when I start to think through what is the next year going to look like. And for me, it's how do I increase my impact? And this year specifically, I'm getting older, year after year, we're getting older. And so I started to just really look at if I'm not healthy, physically healthy and mentally healthy, but physically healthy, it will limit my impact. And so everything, your 4 pillars sitting on the foundation of community is so powerful. They're all the things that I'm working on. And definitely the worst one right now is sleep and recovery for me. I got my friend told me about a Whoop band. I don't know if you've heard of Whoop before.
Yeah, I've heard of Whoop. The Aura Ring is the one that I use, but the Whoop has a really great company and has really good reports that they send out that helps you understand where you're at.
Yeah. So I started it in October and I thought I was doing great. Apparently I am not. So I'm not realizing that I'm probably like working against myself because I'm not really allowing the recovery to happen. So that piece of it is huge for me.
Yeah, and you'll find that when you first wear these trackers, you can go either way with them. Sometimes they'll be there, you can look at all the data with curiosity and you can kind of adjust and try to get the data improved. Sometimes that data, it causes more stress and it just compounds the negative sleep quality. So the way that I like to use trackers, and this is I've actually done a few podcasts on this, where the way that you should use trackers is if it's a tool that you can look at with curiosity and it gives you data that can help you be better, it's an amazing thing. But these trackers are not 100% accurate. We are still in the early phases of what they can read and how they give you the data. So the best way to use these trackers is to get a average data over a large period of time, at least 3 months worth of data, and then make a little change and see how that affects your average. So for me, my Aura Ring shows me that I get 50 minutes of deep sleep when you should be shooting for an hour and a half. Do I stress about that?
What?
Yeah,
Oh my
right. I
God.
know. I know. And so do I look at that 50 and say, oh, I'm short of that 90? I don't. What I do is I look at that 50 and then I try to make little changes throughout my day to get that 50 to go higher. I notice, of course, when I drink the night before, that score plummets to like 10 minutes of deep sleep.
Yeah.
When there's screens on or when I eat close to bed, all these little things so I can see what affects it negatively and what affects it positively. I try not to look at the actual number and get stressed on it. I just try to look at it with curiosity. But you're so right. Like us performers, the ones that are just go, go, go all day long, we are the ones that need to get that sleep pillar fixed. And it's hard because it takes a sacrifice somewhere. We have to cut something and we have to make sure that we prioritize something that we don't usually do. And I think that once we can get that fixed, and I'm talking to myself right here too, I think a lot of other things that we're missing will fall in place.
Yeah. I hear you on not looking at the numbers, but I can't help it. I mean, it's just like I am at Orange Theory. It's like I want to get better at it. So I'm looking at how can I beat that every single day. And I in theory understand it's not really a daily thing or even a minute to minute thing, but I can't help it.
Yeah.
So
That drive makes you who you are, Claire.
I know. But I think what's powerful about having a tracker, it brings attention to these things for you. And so when you're talking about growth, you can't change what you're not aware of, right? So I can see that my sleep and recovery definitely needs some work. And it's causing me to say, okay, what can I change? So it gives you agency, right? It says I'm not completely out of control, that I'm not fit or not healthy. What can I look at to make some, like you're saying, just incremental changes as we go?
And what gets measured gets managed, right? So if you have
So
a
good.
goal, what you don't know, if you don't know where the starting position is, if you think of it like a GPS and you put the address in, you know where you want to be, but you don't know where
Yeah.
you're at right now, there's no way that GPS is going to be able to get you there. But once you start gathering data, and if you talk to anyone that's ever set a goal, they'll tell you that they got there successfully because they were able to find an awareness of just where they are. When it comes to your nutrition, tracking is not necessary to lose body fat or to gain weight, but if you can track your calories for a certain amount of time, you have that starting point of where you are, and then you can make little changes
Mm-hmm.
to faster get there. Yeah, you could shoot in the dark and guess and trial and error, and it will take a while. It'll take you longer. You might get there, but just if you can be a little more concentrated on gathering data, finding awareness. If you don't know how many steps you're taking, then how do you know how much energy you're expending? If you don't know what time you're going to bed, how do you know how much sleep quality and quantity you're getting? So you're so right. Awareness is usually the first thing that starts any process or journey to a goal.
Yeah. So, but what would you say to those people that get overwhelmed by, or that they are afraid to know what their numbers are? How would you address that?
Yeah, and that's a great question. There's many ways to measure success. There's many ways to measure your progress towards a goal. And a lot of clients that I work with, they really put that number on the scale at a high value. So like if they're
Mm.
trying to lose weight, they're like, I have to lose these 20 pounds. And what I tell them is I tell them, if you stayed the same weight, but you lost 20 pounds of body fat and gained 20 pounds of muscle, you'd be the same weight, but you'd
Mm.
look like a completely different person. So maybe that number
Yeah.
on the scale isn't exactly what we're looking for here. So that's when I start to dig a little deeper, and I play the 2-year-old toddler game where you ask why like 5 times to try to get a little bit
Uh-huh.
deeper on to each level of what your actual underlying big why goal is. And then I say like, okay, well, if that number on the scale is just like it's going to cause extra stress and it's not going to help us get to where we need to go, let's measure something else. Let's measure your strength progress. That has nothing to do with your
Mm.
body composition. And if you can get stronger, I know that that's an overarching umbrella that will elicit any kind of aesthetic goals and any kind of energy goals, like any kind of like emotional happiness goals. Like you will get that
Yeah.
through strength. Or maybe it's energy levels. Maybe it's subjectively measuring in a journal, like how I feel today. Maybe it's if I still need some body metrics, maybe I get inches around the belly because you can see yourself getting
Mm.
smaller if that's something. So I just say if you want to look at these numbers and they're kind of causing stress, you don't have to do that. There's other ways to there's lots of roads to Rome type of mindset. And
Yeah.
getting to that deeper why is really going to be the most important thing because you can kind of then tell them to understand like this number that you've really been putting on such a high pedestal isn't why you're here. You're here because you want to be able to play with your children in 20 years or your grandchildren in 20 years. You're here because you want to be independent. You want to stop having aches and pains. Like all that is a much bigger motivator than 20 pounds on a scale.
Right. So it's a new year. We're going to release this in a couple weeks. And so by the end of that first month in 2024, well, there are going to be a lot of people that never started their New Year's resolutions, but there's a lot of people that maybe have already given up. So what would you say causes people to stop short? How would you tell people, like, is there a system? How would you create the longevity of what you want?
Yes, I'm super passionate about this because every year at the beginning of the year, every gym that I work at, we do a 8-week weight loss challenge. And for 5% of the people that enroll in that challenge, it's great. They lose weight, they feel great, they maybe even keep that weight off. But for 95% of the people that do these challenges, they get super motivated right at the beginning and they fall off just a couple weeks. Whenever a challenge or an obstacle hits, they don't know how to navigate that. They were honorable, they fell off the wagon, and now it's like, okay, what's the point? They have this all or nothing mentality. And people that come to me and say, I'm type A, I'm all or nothing, I just have to go. You would be so surprised at how many people, I didn't know that there were 90% plus of type A people, but apparently there are. The problem with that mindset is almost 100% of the time, and I'm using these high percentages just because it's like, just to give you a picture, but it's like almost 100% of the time, they do not achieve their goals because of this mindset. So 3 years ago, I was tired of it. And I created this 1-year challenge called the Accountability Club. And in the Accountability Club, we get together and we set 3 small goals a week, one in the realm of movement and exercise, one in the realm of nutrition, and one in the realm of your personal life. And these 3 small goals could be anything that you want it to be, as long as they were super small and almost laughable as a goal. If you've read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, this is kind of what it was all based on. And if you haven't read it, you got to read this one. It's one of the greatest books for this type of this category of habits. So what we did was we had a little bit of community. We all were able to come together. We had an ability to once a week connect and talk about one challenge and one success. We put a little bit of a score to being able to hit your goals. If you were able to hit 2/3 of your 3 goals, you were able to move on to the next week without a penalty. So it wasn't 100%. It was only 66%. But 66%, if you continue that over time, it's much better than 100% for a couple weeks and 0% for the next year. So we also had a little skin in the game. So I don't know if you've ever made a bet with your friend where you said, I'll bet you $20 that if you lose, you have to pay the politician that you hate the most. So like, this is huge incentive just because you don't want to support something or something like that. So if you were able to hit your goals, your $50 buy-in rolled over month to month. If you didn't, you had to pay another buy-in. So essentially you could do this for $50 for a whole year, or you'd have to pay $50 every year. So it's kind of like a little skin in the game. So putting all that together to answer your question, what I would say is for those that make a huge New Year's resolution, start small and start slow. Also, the biggest hack that you can do, if you want to input something into your life, you have to stack it with something that you already do consistently. What do you do every day automatically? Tie your goal and put something really small with that thing. For example, you brush your teeth every day. Maybe your goal is to feel less aches and pains in your lower body. Okay, well, I'm going to sit in a deep squat while I brush my teeth, and I'm going to work on my hip and ankle mobility while I brush my teeth. That's 2 minutes in the morning, 2 minutes at night, 4 minutes a day for a year. You will feel better, I guarantee it. And it's so easy when it comes to the amount of time that it takes to do that. Every day you have lunch. Okay, so when your lunch starts, you take a 10-minute walk. Or you eat your lunch, and after every lunch, you take a 10-minute walk. This will help with digestion. This will help you get at least 1,000 steps in, more than you normally would. You get maybe sunshine, and you stack it with being outside. Like, how can I take what I do every single day, a habit, and stack something onto it? That's how I found the most success with clients being able to achieve their goals. Once you make it a habit, then you slowly start to add on to it. Because if my goal is to read one book every month, I could break that down, right? I can break that down into a chapter every day. But it's not about reading the chapter, because you have to think about the system that you have to put in place in order to be able to read that chapter. I have to figure out when I'm going to read it, because whenever I read it, what was I doing in that time instead, and how do I replace it? I have to figure out what I'm going to read. Am I going to retain this information, and how am I going to do that? Am I going to take notes? Am I going to teach someone what I learned? Like, all of these tiny little things are what it takes
Mm-hmm.
to read a book a month. And it's not about reading the book or reading the chapter or reading the page. It's about putting together a system of how I'm going to make that happen. And once you have the system put in place, everything else falls in place. And it's all it is from there is a game of consistency and patience.
Yeah, anything you do consistently becomes a habit, just like you're saying, just like brushing your teeth, you just do it automatically, probably the same time. I think it probably was from James Clear. It was the order in which you do things is the same when you're creating a habit. So I remember testing this just in the shower. I'm gonna guess you guys do it you do it in a specific order. Like, do you shampoo your hair first? Do you wash your body like top to bottom, bottom to top? I tried to reverse the order a couple times and forgot to do things.
Yeah. Isn't that insane? And
So
you automatically
it is insane.
did your shower for years and years before that. You didn't even have to think about it. And then when you try to flip it, you miss something. That the brain is
Yeah.
incredible at how it wants to be as efficient as possible. It wants to notice patterns, and it wants to continue with that because it's the easiest version of energy saving that you can do. The more you have to think about each step, the more energy you take. And energy is a huge currency for our lives. That's incredible. I love that.
Yeah. Even brushing your teeth, if you think about it, do you brush like the outside first, the inside first, the left or the right, or the up or the down? You don't even think about it.
Right-handed
So
or
yeah,
left-handed?
and yes, that too. I just started in November. One push up was where I started because I had gotten away from the strength training part for me. And if I just don't have time, every time I turn the shower on, I had to do now I'm up to at least 10 is where minimum. I can't get in the shower until I do 10, but the goal is to get to 30. And it just keeps increasing, and it's easy. Now, the first day, well, I guess I've always been awesome at push-ups, but it was more the timing, like the adding it in as a habit part that was hard. So yeah,
because
and
you
then
have the ability to do your push-ups, but if I were to say do your 10 push-ups anytime that day, you have the ability to push that 10 push-ups off until, oh shoot, I'm busy. Now I have to do this, and that, and I just don't have time, and I lose it. But because you stacked it with something you did every day, you were able to slowly increase.
Yeah, so there's that. I didn't even realize I was doing it, but also when I get up, I put my workout clothes on first. And I can't get out of them until I actually work out. So either I'm working all day in my workout clothes or I'm working out.
Right. You give yourself no excuse. It's like, I put all these clothes on. I read a book where a guy, he had $100 bill on his wall that he tic-tac to his wall. And he says, I either have to burn calories first thing in the morning or I have to burn this $100 bill. What do I want more?
Oh.
And so that was just his way of motivating himself. He knew what motivated him. And of course, every morning when you wake up, you have two options. You're going to choose the option that's more beneficial to you. And $100 is way more valuable than 5 minutes of exercise, even if it's just 1 minute of exercise.
Yeah. No, I love it. Okay. So I want to know this. You kind of talked about it a little bit at the beginning already, but just this question of why do you personally do what you do? Like, what do you feel like? What does your future look like in a long term? What is the legacy and the platform you want to build?
Yeah, wow, that's a great question. Legacy. I don't know if I'm going to leave a legacy. I think about this a lot. Like, how much do you think about your grandfather or your great grandfather? Like, I think that when we're on this earth, that's when we should just be enjoying and being grateful for every moment and making the best. I think that if we can minimize human suffering, that is the gold standard. Like, I don't care if you do your own thing or if you're all about helping other people, but just like minimizing the amount of suffering we go through on a daily basis, I think that's something that we can all agree upon, that's important. All I want to do is I want to help people realize that they are stronger than they're capable for, and they give themselves credit for. Because when I see someone that says like, I cannot do a push-up, or I can't do a pull-up, or I can't get off this couch by myself anymore, like watching them be able to get there, and the look in their eyes when their eyes are wide open saying, I did it, like that's the coolest thing for me. I think that just telling people that we're not fragile. I think that we're so convinced that we are super fragile. This thing can take us out, or this thing's going to hurt us, or we have to minimize all the negative things that could happen in our lives because we may not survive. Like, I think that if we can figure out how to know that we are strong and know that we don't need outside sources for our health and for our happiness, we can do it for ourselves. that's all I really care about when it comes to how I leave this world. And no one's going to remember my name 30 years from now, and that's okay. I just think that when you're here, you're making an impact, and you're creating the community around you that will help you have the best dream life that you could think of.
Yeah. Well, you are leaving a legacy. I'm part of your legacy. You just need to know that part, because if I have now made fitness a habit for myself, anyone that I impact, you've been a part of. So you do it every single day.
Oh, you're amazing. That hits my heart right there. Thank you, Claire.
All right. So I have some rapid fire questions. Went really fast.
Yeah, let's bring it.
You already mentioned one, but what would you say? What are a couple of books that have been game changers for you that you know would benefit people?
Oh man, I try to do one audiobook every day, every week. So last year I did over 52 books along with the podcast that I listened to. In the categories that I find important, if you're struggling with sleep or nutrition, Sean Stevenson is one of my mentors. He is someone that I followed and has changed my life. He's the host of the Model Health Show, and he wrote the book Sleep Smarter, which is like such an easy, good read that really is informative to help you with your sleep. And then he wrote Eat Smarter, which is the same kind of format, only for nutrition. You have to check out Sleep Smarter and Eat Smarter by Sean Stevenson. When it comes to stress management, Michael Easter wrote the book The Comfort Crisis, which is one of my top 5 books of all time. And if you haven't read The Comfort Crisis, I think that it's really important because of how we let comfort creep into our lives and how we try to minimize pain and lean towards pleasure. And if you can stack that book with Dr. Anna Lemke's Dopamine Nation, I think you'll get a much clearer picture of how you can live your life while still looking for all the comforts that this high technology society that we live in offers, but also like doing the things that our body evolved to do and not trying to let technology take over, not letting our thumbs do all the work and letting our muscles and our mobility atrophy. So The Comfort Crisis and Dopamine Nation, definitely got to check those out. When it comes to movement, Built to Move by the GOAT, Kelly Starrett, is amazing. Built to Move. And then Aaron Alexander wrote The Align Method. Those 2 books, if you struggle with movement, if you want to incorporate movement into your lives, if you don't love exercise, these 2 books right here will change the game for you. You don't have to go to a gym and lift heavy weights to be able to be successful with your fitness. Kelly McGonigal is a professor from Stanford, and she wrote The Willpower Instinct and The Joy of Movement. Those 2 books are game changers for any clients that struggle with maybe having a not such a great association with food or exercise. They say like, I can't have chocolate because this, or I'm trying to get rid of carbs because of this. I'm so bad because I eat this junk food. Like any kind of those values that you put on yourself when it comes to food and nutrition or exercise, listen to Kelly McGonigal's books. She is incredible. And then Salt, Sugar, and Fat and the Dorito Effect. Salt, Sugar, and Fat was this book that talks about how our food has been manipulated to be the most tasty, most palatable, just hedonic. I don't know. There's a lot when it comes to food. Read Salt, Sugar, and Fat and the Dorito Effect, and you will look at food completely differently. I think that once we can get this idea for nutrition, I think that we will start to understand what food is and what food is not. And that's a huge thing for us right now. Those are some of the books that I would recommend.
I mean, those are amazing. I'm like typing really fast, and I realize I can just listen back.
I got a list if you need a list.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And we've been talking about fitness and wellness, but I hope that if you're listening, that you can hear that your fitness and who you are is going to affect everything in your life. It affects your confidence. It affects how you show up to anything. And like you've already alluded to, like to be able to play with your kids or the movement in your everyday thing. So super, super important. All right. What about podcasts? Do you have any favorites? What do you listen to when you want to shift your mind?
Oh man, how much time you got? This is like my passion right here. If I'm not working and I'm not doing anything, I have a podcast in my ear at all times. So I'm just so glad that I get to add yours to it. The Model Health Show, Sean Stevenson, is, if you don't listen to it, that can change your life. You got to listen to it. For fitness, Mind Pump, MINDPUMP, is one of the greatest fitness podcasts that you can listen to. The very first half of the podcast is them catching up. They talk about current events. They talk about studies. But the second half, you'll hear fitness questions that are very, very frequently asked. Fitness, nutrition, lifestyle, all this stuff. So I came for the fitness stuff, but now I stay for the banter and the entertainment. So it's a really good mixture of entertainment and fitness. And then for growth, which is exactly who's listening to this, if you don't know who Jim Quick is. Have you heard of Jim Quick, Claire?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Jim Quick, he's
Brain
amazing.
stuff.
He's the brain expert. Yeah, listen to his
Yeah.
KWIK, Quick Brain, short 15-minute episodes with some of the best experts in the field. Super digestible. He puts it in a way that is just really, really entertaining and helpful. And it's all aspects of health and wellness and business and growth. And then On Purpose with Jay Shetty, another solid one where, you know, he's got such a great, he was the one that wrote the monk book where he talked about him being a monk, and he's awesome. And then Huberman Lab, just because I'm a nerd, Andrew Huberman, he's one of the OGs and gangsters in the fitness, in the science realm. You got to listen to Huberman Lab. He does some really good ones.
Yeah, I love him. I just can't, I have to listen to him in like bite size. My brain does not work like that. So
yeah, he's got a lot of dense material in some of those episodes.
Yes. Okay, but you also have to talk, your podcast is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
So Coach Damien's, your podcast, Living the Dream. And I love that yours are short 15-minute bite-sized, what you say, bite-sized snacks or snack-sized bites?
Bite-sized brain snacks.
Which way does it go? Bite-sized brain snacks. There it is. And there's just little things that I've been curious about, but never thought, so I just didn't have the time or think to research it myself. So good. I love it.
Oh, thank you. It was actually a COVID project. I had this plan to do a podcast for 2 years, and I just didn't do anything with it. And COVID hit, and I was like, okay, if I'm not going to do it now, I'm never going to get it done. So I started it. I started with 1-hour masterclass episodes where I did a bunch of research on a single topic, and we dove really deep into each topic. Once I got like the foundation of the main questions that I get asked as a coach day after day, I started to work into these mini episodes where I did one mini episode every week for a year. You'll see 52 minisodes if you go to my podcast. And that's what we followed along with the accountability club. So if you wanted to do your own accountability club for a whole year, you could search the mini episodes and go after 1 to 2 to 3. And it leads you through a whole year of exercise goals, nutrition goals, and personal focus goals that you can tailor to your own needs. So that was really a huge project of mine, and I'm super proud of it. And then now I'm just doing little, probably shorter 15 to 30-minute episodes on different questions that I get asked. And we have what we call the Live in the Dream team that sends in messages and questions, and I kind of riff off of that. And my girlfriend, Jamie, who is also a health coach, she joins me on a lot of them for our co-host episodes, and we talk about questions. And it's really nice to get her perspective because she was more of an athlete turned studio manager turned health coach, whereas I went the other route. I went straight up fitness and all that stuff. And so it's good to have both of our perspectives. I think people like that. But yeah, I'm really proud of it. And I tried to put out 1 episode a week. Last year I fell short. I got to 45. So this year I'm going to get better. I promise.
45 is pretty amazing. Are you kidding me? I heard that the average podcast ends up releasing 10 or less ever, and they fall away. So I'm gonna at least get past that for sure.
You will for sure get past it. I can't wait to be on your podcast a year from now and talk about all the amazing things we've both learned over a year, because it's gonna happen. I promise.
It's so much fun to learn. Well, okay, so what about favorite quotes? Do you have 1 or 2 favorite quotes that stays top of mind or that you live by?
Yeah, and when it came to your talking about how important health was, one of my favorite quotes is, a man who has his health has 1,000 wishes. A man who doesn't have his health has only one. Because if you are not healthy, you cannot, your cup is not filled. You cannot help other people. All you want to do is feel better. That's why one of my passions is just helping people feel better, because if you help the people around you feel better, by proxy, your life will get better, because people that feel good, they have extra energy to go help other people. They have a purpose to go find things that can educate or teach or whatever the people around you. So that's a big one. And then the one that I live my life by is, do the hard thing, lean into resistance, because everything you want is on the other side of hard. So more cliche, it would be get comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that if we all had that mindset, I think that life would be a lot more fulfilling.
Yes. For a long time, I kept on telling myself, I love being uncomfortable. I love being uncomfortable, until I was. It is way fun. So yes, resistance. All right. What is progress for this year? In this year for you personally, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I'm a huge data person, which makes me a big nerd, I guess. I actually track all my metrics. I track my morning blood sugar. I track how many days a week I train. I have a huge Excel spreadsheet where I track my progress, and I actually have the ability to see if I did more the month before, and I give myself a score. I'm very competitive with myself. So progress just means getting 1% better in every category. And as long as I continue to do that over the long run consistently, I know that I'll be somewhere in 10 years, because the most of the time we underestimate how much action and how much progress can be made in a decade, but we overestimate what can be done in a month or 2 months. That's why most people give up on their goals, because they don't see that progress. But it's like it's a ball rolling downhill. It starts super slow, and then it starts to gather momentum, and exponential stuff happens in the long run, as long as you can make your life a consistent progress effort. So I just want to be 1% better, and I do that by tracking my metrics. I gather awareness, because what gets measured gets managed, and that's what progress looks like to me. If I put that into less nerdy data terms, I would say I want to make sure that every person that I come into contact with has a better experience because of it, and making sure that that happens every day, compounded over time. I think that I'll be where I want to be.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I do remember reading that in James Clear's book, The 1%. And for the people that are saying 1% isn't going to make a difference and maybe haven't read his book yet, what have you learned about 1%? Like, why not like 10, 20? I definitely am the one that says 70% better.
I mean,
and then I fall off.
Yeah, it's like what we were talking about earlier. The smaller you can make it, the less likely it is that you're going to fall off. The larger you make your daily steps, the more unlikely it is that you will not achieve that step. And if consistency, long-term consistency, is what the goal is for success, then the less that you have these fall-offs, the better. And the biggest thing that people have struggles with when it comes to their health, fitness, nutrition is that they do too much too fast. So break it down into smaller parts. Don't give yourself an excuse to not do the thing. What is the smallest possible action that can move you closer to your goal? If you are able to maintain that over time, then you will get to your goals over time. If you get this 100% more than you did the day before, you're going to see better results faster, but then you also have a much almost inevitable odds of falling off and going either back to where you started or declining from your original baseline.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. What is this question? What is one quality that you love about yourself?
Now you're getting me uncomfortable.
I gotta embrace it.
Yeah. I would say I really love my drive and my competitiveness, but my competitiveness with myself. I tend to hold myself to a higher standard, not because I think I'm better, but because I know that if I put myself at a higher standard, that is going to be where the baseline is. And I mean, I think the worst thing that you can shoot for is average, because when it comes to being average right now, the average American is not happy. They're overweight. We have up to 75% that are either overweight or obese. We are losing purpose. So I don't feel like being average is anything to shoot for. So anytime I do something, I would say, what does the top 1% do here? And how can I get there? And I know that I'm not going to get there all the time, half the time, maybe not the majority of the time. But I know that if I shoot for that, that is going to get me way farther than just kind of going with the grain. So I think that my drive and my competitiveness and that higher standard really is something that has gotten me to where I want to be when it comes to success. And I think it's going to help take me even further. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Good. I like it. There are a lot of people that are embarrassed to be competitive or to say that, but it's very proud. It's how you're wired. So I love that you are embracing that, and you should be proud of that as something that is great about you.
Thank you.
Well, okay. So I got two more questions. One is easy. One is, what can we do to amplify your voice, and where can they find you?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Living the Dream podcast is the podcast if you want to take a listen to that. I'm on social media, so you can find me at livingthedream_podcast or at Coach Damien _SD. Also, I have a newsletter, a free newsletter if you'd like to get this is I'm so proud of this, but every week, every Monday, I release a podcast that has any health, fitness, and wellness content that I learned the week before. So usually I have about 4 or 5 podcasts that I think would be beneficial to you. I have books that I've read. I put in movement and lifestyle, and we even put in a recipe for a really healthy meal or smoothie or salad or whatever it is. So the newsletter is called the Living the Dream newsletter. Just send me a message and I can get you added to that list with your email. But yeah, I appreciate you letting me be on here today. I'm so grateful. I know you're going to have just like the most incredible people on here. And I'm very grateful that I get to be a part of it.
Thank you. All right. This is my last question for you. So this podcast, as you know, it's intended for people who want to amplify their lives. So live out loud and on purpose. So what would be a self-leadership question that you would have them ask? Like what question would you have them ask themselves?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm the best person to be able to give this advice, but I'm going to do my best. I would say, the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, if the first thing you do is shift your mindset to gratitude, I think that the whole entire trajectory of your life could change. If you wake up and you're just like, damn, I do not want to go to work. I'm so tired. Like all that mindset, I understand it. I have it all the time. But if you can then stop that thought process, think about 1 or 2 things that you're grateful for and one thing that you're looking forward to, I think that mindset shift, you have a part in your brain, your reticular activating system, that searches out things that you put to the front of your mind. So when you buy a brand new car, you get a white Tesla. When you go on the road after you buy it, that's all you see is white Teslas, because that's now at the front of your mind. So if you can shift your mindset in the morning to get your reticular activating system searching for what you want, I believe that can change the trajectory of what you're looking for. So what are you grateful for? Get that gratitude feeling going. What are you looking forward to? What is something that you want to put on the front of your mind? And then how can you be of service? So you ask yourself, what is one thing that I can do to be of service to the people that I love, to my community, to the world? It can be the smallest thing. It could be big. What is an actionable thing that can help you be of service today? I think those 2 things takes 2 minutes in the morning to do. You don't even have to open your eyes. And I think that could be a really great time to change the way that it goes in your life, especially if you're in a place where you're not happy, especially if you're in a place where you are just, when it rains, it pours type of sensation when you're feeling that. I think that those 2 things really have helped me.
Awesome. I love that. Definitely 2 things I do. So I agree.
Let's go.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you for being on with me today, Coach. I so appreciate you. And for those of you tuning in, thank you for being on with us. And just remember, no matter where you are in your journey, you are already enough. There's more to you than the hats that you wear. There's more in you than you can imagine. And there's more for you out there just waiting to be received. So have the courage to take the first step and amplify your life, one day at a time, one thought at a time.